So move.
Do I have a second? All right, that's moved by Commissioner Alvarado and seconded by Commissioner Elliott. Any discussion to the motion to approve the minutes of July 23rd, 2025 meeting? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions? Any nays? Motion carries. Ms. Washington, have members of the public signed up to speak or provide written comments in advance of the meeting?
Madam Vice Chair, no members of the public have signed up to speak today at the meeting, nor did we receive any comments submitted in advance of the meeting.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that we did receive some public comment at committee, and just want to thank staff for already following up with us on that, so that we know that there's resolution to the concern. So thank you for that very timely response. This ends the public comment portion of the meeting, and we will now move to the presentation of resolutions.
We're going to move to the next phase where Vice Chair will advise us
You
of
want me to
consent
do
agenda.
the consent agenda protocol? Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
Madam Vice Chair.
Please be advised, the Board of Commissioners, September 22nd, 2021 meeting, this board approved the consent agenda protocol. There are 2 resolutions appearing below that received unanimous votes of approval at the Board of Commissioners Operation Committee meeting, and 3 resolutions appearing below that received unanimous votes of approval at the Board of Commissioners Real Estate Committee, both held on September 17th, 2025. The collective group of resolutions on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion to adopt all resolutions and the affirmative majority vote of the Board of Commissioners. If discussion on any resolution or resolutions is desired by any member of this board, the commissioners must make steps known that the desire to have that immediately following the reading of the consent agenda items, and the resolution or resolutions will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately, or at the discretion of the chair or vice chair, a discussion may occur prior to the vote on the consent agenda resolutions. Moreover, if a commissioner simply wants his or her vote to be specifically recorded on any particular item, separate votes may be taken on the resolutions. Will the interim general counsel identify the 5 resolutions on the consent agenda for the record, please?
Yes, Commissioners, before you are copies of the following consent agenda resolutions. Resolution number 2529, the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, seeks authorization to adopt the second amended and restated contracts and procurement policy statement. Resolution number 2530, Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, seeks approval and authorization to submit the fiscal year 2025 Moving to Work annual report to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Resolution number 2531, the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, seeks authorization to extend the property management and pre-development planning agreement with Integral Property Management, LLC. Resolution number 2532, the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, seeks authorization to execute an amendment to the remediation agreement for Civic Center Phase 1 to modify the scope, cost, and schedule of environmental remediation activities. And Resolution number 2533, the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, seeks authorization to take all actions necessary to consummate the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program conversion, recapitalization, and rehabilitation closing of Ashley College Town 1.
Thank you. I have a motion to consider, adopt, and approve the consent agenda containing resolution numbers 2529, 2530, 2531, 2532, and 2533.
So move.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Elliott and seconded by Commissioner Hooker. Is there any discussion related to the consent agenda resolutions or any that anyone wants to pull for separate vote? All right, hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries.
Okay, Commissioners, it is recommended that the Board of Commissioners move to close this portion of the regular meeting to convene into an executive session to discuss certain privileged matters pursuant to Georgia Code Section 5014-21. It is estimated the executive session may last a minimum of 30 minutes. At the conclusion of the executive session, the board will reconvene into the public portion of the regular meeting.
May I have a motion to close this portion of the regular meeting that the board may convene in executive session, discuss certain privileged matters?
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Hooker and seconded by Commissioner Elliott. Is there any discussion by the board to temporarily close this portion and convene an executive session? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions, Thanks. The motion carries. The regular meeting is adjourned at 2:11.
And if the commissioners will join Ms. Carmichael, she's going to escort you to the executive session meeting room.
Welcome back, everyone. We have concluded our discussion in executive session and are reconvening into the public portion of the regular meeting. Please note that no actions were taken in executive session where we discussed a privileged matter. And I call the regular meeting back to order. I will make note that we still have an in-person quorum, and the reconvene time is 3:27. I'm pleased that we have a report from our President and CEO, Terry Lee. I'm not hearing it.
Thank you. So obviously, I should have just pressed a different button. But I want to, because I want to make sure this is on the record. So I want to thank my board of commissioners, and I take that ownership very strongly, because we are in unprecedented times as a country and even as a housing authority. And I thank you for your leadership. I thank you for your thought leadership, your partnership, and quite honestly, assisting me as we steer our way through to serve the many families that we have here in Atlanta Housing. That is not taken for granted by me. I recognize that this is a volunteer board, but the service you provide is so much more than just being volunteers. So I thank you for that. I also would like to thank the members of our staff that are here, but quite honestly, just the employees of Atlanta Housing for the work, the monumental work that we do every day to make Atlanta a better place for the families that we serve. As you all know, we did not have a board meeting in August, but I will tell you the work didn't stop. And so today, what I would like to share with you would be some highlights, not just from the month of September, but also from August. But before I do that, I would be remiss if we did not recognize our own, Commissioner Doug Hooker. Commissioner Hooker and his wife, Patrice Perkins Hooker, were honored at the 36th Annual Heroes, Saints, and Legend fundraising gala on last week by the Foundation of Wesley Woods. And Commissioner, I want to thank you just for your servant leadership over the years. I know you continue to say you're retired. I don't think you are. But your servant leadership, but as well as your ongoing support of this agency. So we salute you, as well as your wife, Patrice.
Thank you so much, Madam CEO. Thank you all. Just a quick thanks to Kelly, Lisa, Dwayne, Rosalind, all the folks who came out from AH to support me, and Patrice. And thank you to all of my colleagues and friends through the years for your love and support. When I took on the job as executive director of ARC, I said to the folks who were attending a reception that was given to welcome me, I said, my success is only going to be as much as your success and your willingness to support me, guide me, even critique me and criticize me when that's necessary. And so this community has helped raise me up, and I thank this community for everything that it's given me. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Sir, just don't give us lessons on how to be retired.
They say I'm flunking that, so sorry.
The business of this board. So I want to commend the board for continuing to uplift the strategic plan that was adopted in January of 2023. During today's board meeting, we actually had passed 5 resolutions, and the 5 resolutions focused in on how do we really enhance our operations, how do we communicate our work, how do we further the preservation and production of affordable housing, and then quite honestly, how do we build different partnerships. And so if I could just take a moment to speak about each one. Under strengthened operations, the very first resolution we passed today was around our amended contracts and procurement policy. And this directly
While you're doing that, I just want to take a moment to say what a great report it is. We had an opportunity to hear it at committee. So for anyone who's tuning in or following along, I really encourage you to take a moment and review the Moving to Work report. And I think our president and CEO is back.
Awesome. Yes,
Good
thank you.
stall.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Kirsch. And then the third resolution that we adopted today was amending the project management development agreement for the remaining 5 public housing high-rises that the authority owns. We are in partnership with Integral Property Management to reimagine what those complexes should look like. And so we've extended that partnership agreement to December of 2026. We are moving forward with the Civic Center. We're continuing to do work at the Civic Center. We had a resolution that continued to lift, that focused on the environmental remediation of the site, and it continues to lift up the site to get it ready for development activity. We should be closing on the first phase of Civic Center as October 1, I believe. No, October 2nd. I was looking for Maya for that date. But we should be closing 7 October. You heard it hot off the presses, and last time I checked, Maya Hadari could close transactions. So October 7th, we'll be closing on the first phase of Civic Center. And then the last resolution that we passed was really continuing the preservation of affordable housing. Ashley at College Town 1 was a development that was completed several years back. It is time to refresh that development, and so we're moving forward with the preservation of that affordable housing opportunity. And the resolution you passed gets us further to a financial closing for that particular property. And so we've been busy. We've spent some time over this last month in Washington, D.C. I have the opportunity to serve as a trustee with the Public Housing Authorities Directors Association, and they hosted their legislative conference the second week in September. And I want to thank Commissioner Alvarado for joining us. Commissioner Alvarado did several meetings while he was in Washington, D.C., talking about the work and the impact of Atlanta housing. But also I was joined by Ralph Mays, Paul Vanaker, as well as Carolyn Wynn. The picture that you see on the screen is after we had an opportunity to speak about some of the work that we're doing as a Moving to Work organization. And what was really important is that there's been a lot of conversation around work requirements and term limits. And so we were really able to show how Atlanta is an example of implementing work requirements and what the success of those efforts, success as well as impact of those efforts have been. You also see a picture where we're with Representative Lucy Macbeth. I don't know if many of you know, but her district has been redrawn. And so with the redrawing of her district, she now represents Bowen Homes. And so it gave us an opportunity to share with her the work we're doing at the 74-acre site of Bowen Homes, but also to just educate her on who Atlanta Housing is, as well as the work that we're doing, the challenges that we face, but quite honestly, the work that needs to continue to happen to make sure that we serve our residents responsibly. And then we hosted Congresswoman Nikema Williams as well. We hosted her at historic Roosevelt Hall, and then did a tour to Inglewood as well as Thomasville Heights and a few of our other sites. Now, what was so important about the tour to Inglewood is that many of you may remember that the City of Atlanta provided about $15 million to assist us with stormwater infrastructure improvements. And so we have a water feature on that site. Well, that is the same type of water feature that we'll have on the Thomasville Heights site, where Congresswoman Williams has supported a discretionary grant to Atlanta Housing. And so we were able to show her that work in action and how the funding would be utilized. And what was also important, though, is we are really, really focusing in on engaging with not just our local officials, but also our congressional delegation, so that they understand the economic impact of the work that we do at Atlanta Housing. We often talk about the families we serve, but I would like to tell you that we partner with over 2,200 mom and pop landlords, as well as small businesses and large businesses, to provide rental assistance to our families. And so without that public-private partnership, we would not be able to provide much needed housing resources to the families that we serve. Today, I said today, we are the first housing authority in the country to launch a partnership with BIRD. And this partnership is focused not just on housing, but linking housing to transit options to workforce development. And so today at historic Roosevelt Hall, we were able to launch our very first Ride to Work program, where Atlanta Housing residents will receive a discount to actually participate or ride Bird scooters as well as the new mobility bikes that they have for our senior population. What's also exciting about it is we've identified 10 zones that Atlanta Housing participants will receive an additional 20% discount if they actually ride a scooter or pick up a scooter within those zones. Now, the piece that is even more excited than transit and the discount is the fact that Bird is partnering with us on workforce development. We will be hosting quarterly career fairs with Bird in partnership to make sure our residents have access to their job opportunities that are available. Brand ambassadors, team members, even working through their maintenance facilities. The very first career fair will be launched on October 9th at Roosevelt Hall from 4 to 7. And so when we talk about resident renaissance, when we talk about the fact that we want to empower our residents, we're actually putting action behind that and bringing forth community partnerships. So while we have the sphere of control over housing, the sphere of influence is how we can bring those partnerships together to help us empower our residents with other activities. And so we were very excited. Commissioner Elliott, I want to thank you for joining us today. I was also excited that we had 2 residents join us. We had a former resident from Bowen Homes as well as a former resident from University Homes talk about the need to have access to transportation options and how this will be an opportunity for them, not just have transportation options, but even be able to take advantage of the workforce training that will take place. And so I'm very, very excited about this effort, and I'll have a chance to speak with some other CEOs during this week, and I can't wait to talk about it because Atlanta Housing is not just first again, but we're showing that innovation really is possible when you think outside the box. So I'm excited for this effort, and I want to thank our Chief of Staff for her leadership in bringing this partnership opportunity to Atlanta Housing. And I did not ride a bike today because I'm still healing. But we have made a commitment. Bird is going to come back and do a tour with myself and Commissioner Cabinets from the City of Atlanta, where we'll actually do a bike tour around those zones and be able to show the impact of that information. So we're excited about that. Just last week, we invited the mayor's interim chief of staff as well as chief policy officer to Atlanta Housing to talk about the neighborhood revitalization strategy. We all know that the mayor has identified 7 key neighborhood corridors where the city is investing a lot of effort on commercial, housing, economic development, and revitalization efforts. And quite honestly, 3 of those corridors have major Atlanta housing projects. Mechanicsville, the Bankhead West Hollowell corridor, as well as Thomasville Heights. And so we wanted to make sure that our leadership team, as well as some of their team members, were getting real live information as to the initiatives that the city is moving forward, but also how Atlanta Housing is a part of those initiatives, but also what else can we leverage to lift up and highlight our work. If you have not seen that presentation by Courtney English, I would invite him back to meet with our board because it is a phenomenal presentation and it's probably one of the best collections of just neighborhood strategy work that I've seen. And it really takes into consideration every component that makes a healthy neighborhood. As you recall, the mayor says Atlanta would be the best place to house a child, and this is the foundation work that moves that forward. And the housing component is so critically important because Atlanta Housing is not just building housing, we're building communities. And so it goes right in hand. So we were excited to have Courtney join us. We were also excited last week to have Ann Kramer join us. We launched a salon series probably earlier this year where we've had Commissioner Nunn, the mayor, come and just have a conversation with me so that our staff can understand what is happening in the larger environment outside of our 4 walls. And Ann was truly Ann. And she brought a level of joy and hope into the room. But she also basically reminded us how philanthropy starts at home. And that Atlanta has long been the cradle of corporate responsibility, but how that spans to where Atlanta Housing now can be a part of that conversation. So as we talk about partnership relationships, as we discuss resources that our residents need, that will only be met through non-traditional partnerships. And so Ann was the very beginning of that conversation. And what Ann said, and I've been really thinking about this over the last couple of days, Ann said what gives her faith during this season is the hope that we are a community that will do the right thing. And I was ecstatic to hear that, but I was also ecstatic for her to share with our team how it is so fundamentally important that we stand for something, and that our core values are more than just a sign on the wall, but it really speaks to the urgency, the impact, the excellence, the togetherness, and the growth that we should have in Atlanta Housing as we serve the residents of this city. And so we want to thank Ann again for just spending so much time with us. We also participated in the GARA conference. We had team members who participated in the GARA conference, and we launched our first ever homegrown initiative. And this is the initiative where Atlanta Housing is extending a helping hand to the housing authorities in the state. We recognize that while we may be the largest housing authority, we're not the only housing authority. And we all have something in common. And that what we have in common is two things. We're providing housing and we're helping people. And so we are working with our fellow housing authorities, about 60 housing authorities across the state, to really tell their story, their impact. And that impact is so much more than the residents we serve, but it's really the economic impact of the rental housing that they're able to provide, and how together we are a stronger voice. And so I want to thank again Kelly and her team for the work that they did at that conference. And I would also say I want to take a moment to brag a little bit on my team, because Atlanta Housing didn't just have a table, and Commissioner Martin, I want to thank you for your attendance at the conference, but not only did we have a table to launch the homegrown effort, we also were speakers at the conference. Felicia Meadows led a conversation on fraud investigations and the Violence Against Women Act that I'm still hearing remnants about. Just the level of intelligence that she was able to bring and share with our other housing authorities. And then our very own Constance Graham is vice chair of the 2025 Women of GARA Committee. And so we're showing leadership just beyond the senior leadership team, but in every facet of this organization. And I just want to thank Constance for her commitment to continue to lift up the name of Atlanta Housing. We also had a chance, we love to take pictures, but we took a picture with Rita Thomas. And Rita received the Lifetime Achievement Award. And what's special about that is that she's currently Vice President of Legislative and Regulatory Affairs at the Augusta Housing Authority, as well as a past officer of GARA, but she was formerly a public housing resident. And so to be able to be acknowledged among her peers, we wanted to definitely lift her up and lift her story up as well. And I just want to thank our entire delegation for just the good representation that you do for Atlanta Housing, because the work, again, that we do is so impactful to our families. On this slide, you see that we had a partner with not just the Urban League of Greater Atlanta, but also with Young Jeezy. We launched a Young CEOs Pitch Contest, and it was really a Shark Tank where our youth were able to come in and share their ideas from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And so we were excited to have that contest. There were prizes that were awarded from $150 to $2,500 for the winner. We also launched our Back to School Bash, supporting over 200 age-assisted households. We made sure that our children had access not just to school supplies, but that they had access to health care, as well as book giveaways. We made sure they had haircuts, and Home Depot partnered with us and gave us free backpacks for our children as well. And so again, just another effort along with our partnerships efforts, along with the Boys and Girls Club that we worked with. We hosted our landlord symposium in August of this year as well, and we were joined by residents at our landlord symposium to talk with our landlords about the impact that their participation has for them to be able to have access to housing choice. And so this was, I believe, our 4th annual housing landlord symposium that was very well attended. We had over 150 landlords attend, and this is where landlords come in and not just get information, but also share with us what's working right with the program and what can be improved on the program. And so we welcome that opportunity and that feedback consistently. But, you know, we had one message for them. Atlanta's growing, and that growth has to be inclusive of everyone. And so we asked all our landlords that were there to not wait till next year to bring somebody, but to tap somebody on their shoulder now to make sure that they'll be a participant and a part of our program, so we'll have even more housing opportunities to our families. So I want to thank Tracy Jones for her continued leadership and her team. They did a phenomenal job. Tracy even was able to have a comedian come, Miss Pat. I can't think of Miss Pat's last name, but Miss Pat, the comedian, came and shared with us. And what she shared with us is that she also was a former public housing resident, and that she didn't do some things the right way and lost her voucher. And she was able to share the importance, though, that that experience had for her, that she's now a landlord in our program. We had a ribbon cutting just this last week, Legacy at Eastlake. And what is significant about Legacy of Eastlake is that we had 121 of our seniors that were relocated during the renovation. 72, as of today, 72 have returned, and we still have more coming. And so that talks about the fact that while we're preserving housing, we're also preserving opportunities for our seniors to still be able to age in place with dignity. This was a total of a rehab of a total of 149 studio and 1-bedroom apartments. It was a $35 million development effort, and we partnered with Columbia Residential, Invest Atlanta, Truist, the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, as well as the Eastlake Foundation. If you have not toured Legacy at Eastlake, I invite you to tour Legacy at Eastlake. Our seniors have access to amenities such as community gardens, as well as a movie theater within that development opportunity. The next picture on the slide you see is an upcoming closing. Is a closing. We have made it to the finish line with Columbia MLK Senior. This is a standalone home flex agreement. We have about, I think it's a 20-year agreement where 100% of the units will be affordable. We are designating this project for seniors. Again, it's another opportunity for senior housing within our downtown corridor. And so we're just excited that to start this renovation. The renovation will include, of course, upgrades to the units as well as the building interiors, as well as common areas, exterior landscaping, major systems, and we're going to look to provide long-term preservation of this property from an affordability aspect. Our dashboard, we're continuing to move. When you think about, and one thing for us is we believe in, we not only believe in just talking about the work we're doing, but we believe in transparency. So our dashboards, the Moving to Work dashboard, as well as the dashboard highlighting our strategic plan, is on our website. And so anyone at any given time could actually look at our dashboards. And actually, if you're watching now, you can scan the QR code to have access to the strategic plan dashboard. And I want to highlight two things for you because these are two things I know that were very important to this board. Well, three things. One, the creation and preservation of affordable housing unit. January 2023, this board made a goal that we would create and preserve 10,000 units by fiscal year 2027. We're at 76% of our goal. And I want to thank the team for pushing to get us to this effort to make sure that we can provide much needed housing opportunities to our families in Atlanta. I also want to talk about our partnerships for a minute. We spoke about the partnership with Byrd today, but we made a commitment that we were going to raise significant resources to help diversify our federal funding. And so we've raised to date $1.9 million, which is 95% of the target that we set. And then many of you, when you joined the board, that was a concern that we were not communicating enough. We were not telling our story. People didn't know who we were. They didn't know what Atlanta Housing was actually doing, and they didn't know if the housing was still in Atlanta Housing's name. And so one of the things that we've started is a monthly CEO letter. We send that newsletter out to over 1,700 email contacts. We have about a 55 to a 60% open rate, where people are really looking at and hearing information. And most of the information I share with you in our CEO report is also shared in that newsletter. But I'm really, and just so you know, the audience, we send that audience to civic leaders, to our state, county, as well as city officials, as well as other business leaders, so that they'll know the work that we're doing. But what I'm really excited about is the media presence that we have, because many of you are aware that we didn't have much of a media presence before. Just at the Legacy of Eastlake, we had 4 media channels, and then 5 if you include the city. We had WSB TV, we had Fox 5, 11 and Live, as well as Georgia Public Broadcasting. And so we're getting the necessary coverage to tell our story. Today, at the Bird Lunch, we had, again, CBS News was there. We had Axios newsletter, as well as other media outlet, to be able to tell our story and the work that we do. And that's important. And it's important because it's important for people to understand that Atlanta housing is not just moving for us, but we're moving for the residents of this city. And then I had an opportunity to participate in a Butternomics, had never heard of Butternomics, but a Butternomics podcast speaking about, from a cultural standpoint, who Atlanta housing is, what is our business, but why we should exist in the work that we do here in this city. And so that podcast right now is on YouTube, and I believe we've had about 1,000 hits since the initial launch of that podcast. And so we have upcoming events. So we haven't stopped, right? Next Tuesday, we have a ribbon cutting, and that ribbon cutting will be, all the commissioners will have the information for that ribbon cutting, but we have a ribbon cutting for Inglewood. You may recall last May, we did the first phase of, for Inglewood, and then in December of this year, we closed phase 2 for Inglewood. So we're now, when you go to that site on Tuesday, you're gonna see 2 active projects under construction at the same time, phase 1 and phase 2, and it constitutes probably about a total of a little over 300 units. One development is for seniors, the second development is for family, but you'll also see the infrastructure improvements that have been made on the site. And with that, I thank you. I thank you again for your service. I thank you for your partnership, but most importantly, I thank you for your love for Atlanta housing. Are there any questions at this time?
Any questions from fellow commissioners? Thank you, as always, for an excellent report.
Thank you.
And for all the work of everyone in this room. I want to acknowledge the Atlanta is Home shirts that the team is wearing. I think it channels that positivity and hope, and that we're going to make the right decisions that you referenced from Ann Kramer, and feels like it's represented in those shirts, so it's great to see.
Thank you so much.
All right, if there's no further business of this board, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Alvarado and seconded by Commissioner Martin. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned at 3:55 p.m. Thank you.
Perfect location.
Anyone who'd like to have something from our taco bar, we hope you'll help yourself. Thank you. Delicious taco bar.
Aye.